some new lows over the weekend, with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from.
Donald Trump often frames the situation as if the fight is already lost. But that isn't the case. He continues to face setbacks in court and criticism in the court of public opinion as his approval ratings decline. The issue of free speech is one area where pushback has been especially strong. After Jimmy Kimmel's suspension, which critics linked to Trump, a new legal challenge quickly emerged, creating more complications for his position. Get into the details of that case and how the administration is responding. But first, here's what I thought was a strong reply to Trump's stance on free speech from J.B. Pritzker.
Joining me now is Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. This is, as I just said, this is much bigger than a media story. It feels to me, first of all, Brendan Carr went out today, the FCC chair, and basically called out Jimmy Kimmel by name. And then a couple of hours later, he was put on indefinite, hiatus, suspension, whatever you want to call it. Does this feel, it feels to me like obedience in advance. Does it feel to you like that?
It's intimidation, clearly. And this is what we're seeing across the board from the Trump administration. They're using the power of the government to go after businesses, to get them to do things that they need or want, right? Either to pay them, as we have seen, or to fire people, as we have seen. And here we have a comedian. I mean, this is somebody who's on every night, frankly, probably offending somebody every single night.
He may have made fun of you before.
Indeed, he has. And so I just want to say that, we should not be going after people for this. Look, did he get some things wrong? Yeah. I mean, but he is not a commentator, a news anchor. This is somebody who's a comedian, for goodness sakes. And now we've got the Trump administration literally targeting individuals. You saw it with Stephen Colbert. Now you're seeing it with Kimmel. Anybody that's criticizing this administration, they're using the power of government to intimidate companies to fire people.
Observers have often pointed out inconsistencies in how MAGA politics approaches free speech. Supporters of the movement frequently present themselves as defenders of open expression. But critics argue that this commitment is not applied consistently. In some cases, speech that aligns with their perspective is championed, while opposing views are dismissed or restricted. This debate has extended into commentary from across the political spectrum. Some voices on the left have praised Charlie Kirk for his approach to politics and speech, while others disagree, arguing that his campus appearances were aimed more at building profile and generating attention than at fostering genuine dialogue. The issue is further highlighted by examples such as Mahmoud Khalil, who spoke out against U.S. foreign policy and now faces deportation under Trump's orders. To critics, this raises questions about whether the principle of free expression is being applied fairly. Against this backdrop, Trump's response to Jimmy Kimmel has been viewed by critics as part of the same pattern, ending speech selectively while pushing back against speech that is critical of him or his allies.
Free speech. Your Vice President Vance said that free speech is under attack in the UK. Do you agree with him? And Prime Minister, we saw the dismissal of a very well-known chat show host in America last night, Mr. Kimmel. Is free speech more under attack in Britain or America?
Well, Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent. Yeah, please, go ahead.
So first, with respect to the government, that's where it's exactly the conversation we were just having with Katie. The government needs to be really respectful of different viewpoints, even when you think that what is being said is inaccurate or deplorable or both. And so that, to me, is the more problematic thing, where you'd want to know exactly what were they doing, because you really are not supposed to engage in sort of viewpoint discrimination. Now, a private actor is a very different story.
the focus on television ratings has become a distraction from broader issues. While much attention is given to late-night hosts like Jimmy Kimmel, critics note that Donald Trump's own approval ratings have been declining. They argue that this, rather than entertainment ratings, is the more pressing measure of public opinion. Critics also point out that the administration has strayed from its original promises. Instead of prioritizing issues like affordability, they say policies such as tariffs have added financial strain on working families by raising consumer prices. At the same time, figures like Charlie Kirk are being elevated as symbolic voices, which some see as part of a larger political strategy. Opponents insist they will not simply concede or accept defeat in the face of these moves. Lawmakers such as Robert Garcia and Eric Swalwell have already responded with new legal challenges aimed at pushing back against the administration's actions.
Ranking member Robert Garcia launches investigation after ABC fires Jimmy Kimmel. Network caves to political pressure from Trump administration. Rep. Robert Garcia, ranking member of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, released the following statement announcing he will be launching an investigation into the Trump administration, ABC, and Sinclair amid ongoing efforts to censor opposition to the president. Garcia said, "Every American has a duty to stand up for our First Amendment values. We will not be silent as our freedoms are threatened by corrupt schemes and threats. Anyone who is complicit will need to answer to us." And Eric Swalwell threatened a lawsuit with this clip right here.
So I want to make it clear, there's going to be a Democratic majority in just over a year. And to the FCC chairperson and anyone involved in these dirty deals, get a lawyer and save your records, because you're going to be in this room and you're going to be answering questions about the deals that you struck and who benefited and what the cost was to the American people because that happened. I want to now move.
The message is simple. Stop backing down before the fight even begins. Too often, Democrats hesitate when confronted with difficult or unpopular issues, stepping aside instead of making their case. But leadership means more than following polls or avoiding controversy. If an elected official truly believes a policy will make the country better, then it is their responsibility to defend it openly and convince the public why it matters. History shows that public opinion doesn't move on its own. It shifts when leaders consistently speak out, explain their positions, and keep difficult issues in the spotlight. Over the last decade, we've seen dramatic changes in the way Americans view major topics, from civil rights to foreign policy. Even under constant attacks from Trump, when Democrats stayed vocal and persistent, the debate shifted in their direction. That change didn't happen by staying quiet. It happened because people engaged, debated, and persuaded. This is why many argue that Democrats need to move past symbolic actions like strongly worded letters or vague statements of concern. They want lawmakers to take meaningful steps, using oversight powers, holding hearings, putting officials under oath, and pursuing accountability through the legal system when there is evidence of wrongdoing. These are concrete ways to challenge abuse of power and to show the public that the fight is serious and real. It's also important to recognize how Republicans have, at times, managed to convince the public that they are the stronger defenders of free speech. This perception has taken root because Democrats have sometimes ceded the ground instead of forcefully pushing back. But that narrative is shifting. High-profile incidents, such as attempts to silence critics or punish media figures, have created an opening to challenge the claim that the right cares more about freedom of expression. Democrats have an opportunity to reframe the debate if they speak with clarity and confidence. The same applies to foreign policy, where public opinion on Gaza has changed significantly in a short period of time. Graphic reporting and images of the humanitarian crisis have made it impossible for many Americans to look away. This has led to a growing shift in how people think about U.S. involvement and the use of taxpayer dollars. Advocates believe that if Democrats continue to engage directly on the issue, future administrations could adopt new approaches that better reflect the will of the public. Ultimately, the broader point is about refusing to concede ground to authoritarian politics. The argument is that if you give an inch, you risk losing far more. Every political battle matters, and treating some fights as optional only allows opponents to gain ground. Instead, leaders must demonstrate resolve, keep making the case, and show voters they are willing to stand up consistently for their principles. This approach doesn't mean being reckless. It means having moral clarity. It means recognizing that unpopular ideas can become mainstream when people make the case effectively and stick to their values. It means treating every issue as worth engaging, not just the ones that poll well in the moment. As Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker recently emphasized, progress requires clarity, persistence, and the courage to fight even when the odds look difficult. The call is not to bend, not to concede prematurely, and not to let authoritarianism define the boundaries of debate. Instead, it is to stand firm, speak honestly, and trust that the public can be persuaded when leaders lead with conviction.
Everybody should be saying that ABC should reverse their decision. This is not something they should have been doing. I don't think that ABC, at least historically, has not been an organization that has exhibited this kind of behavior. But, now we're seeing the pressure that can be brought by the federal government. You can imagine the pressure that's on Disney and ABC and on their business based upon, well, what's been said so far today. And so I must say, I do not understand why people are not standing up and pushing back when they ought to. Because what's at stake here is free speech. It's our Constitution and our way of life. Do we really want the President of the United States intimidating people, organizations to get others fired? This is not that moment. People ought to be standing up and speaking out. What can they do? Well, it's what I've been saying for some time now, which is if we want to get action, we now can't rely upon a MAGA-controlled Congress. We can't rely on the President of the United States. Seemingly, although we'll see whether we can rely on the Supreme Court of the United States, increasingly it doesn't appear that way. And so we only have one other thing to do, which is public action. People actually speaking up, speaking out, boycotting, showing up and protesting, and their representatives who agree with them doing the very same.